Being out of work was a new experience.
We found you a job. When have I ever been a teacher? Come on, it won't hurt to try. Do you know how many kids carry guns to school these days? In this case, all of them.
The AEC is building 2310. Go half a click till you see the DPTM center. If you hit the RFPC, you're going too far.
Can I buy a vowel?
Now, what you've got here is a few soldiers in basic training who've fallen way behind the other recruits.
I'm not an animal. I'm not an animal. No!
I've never taught before, and you've never thought before. So, good luck to all of us. So what you're saying here is you want me to teach these guys how to comprehend?
He's hardly a soldier.
What's the matter? You can't get a job out in the real world?
They're barely students.
Hey, hold up. That is a diss. I ain't no oxymoron, all right? You know what I think, Bill? I think you're wasting my time.
Yeah, well, you do your job and I'll do mine, all right?
Yeah, you know what the difference here, Bill, is? I care about what I do.
The army wanted to make them into soldiers.
You good.
He wanted to open their minds.
This is called Hamlet.
Hamlet, yo, that's about a little bitty pig, right?
You can get past Shakespeare, get past anything.
I don't know if anybody can help you, Ashby, but I'm sure.
Go easy on the kid. Talk about anal. You must have been toilet trained at gunpoints.
Oh, that's it. That is it.
Touchstone Pictures presents
You are not dumb, but I need you to know that.
the story of a man
Do not saw the air too much with your hands. Thus.
who had a lot to teach
This is important, Lou. This is important. This is why we're here.
and
I told you not to look down. Everybody looks down when you tell them not to look down. You know that?
a lot to learn.
Yeah, looking good, Mr. Regal.
From Penny Marshall, the director of Big, Awakenings, and A League of Their Own.
This is all that else we do.
Danny DeVito,
Victory starts here.
Renaissance Man.
Hamlet's mama, she's a queen. Hamlet's mama, she's a queen.
Buys it in the final scene.
She buys it in the final scene.
Yeah, this movie didn't do so well, and you can kind of see why. It's basically a mix of Dead Poet Society meets Private Benjamin, but bring in Danny DeVito to star as the teacher instead of Robin Williams. And, yeah, this is not a very good movie. And for Penny Marshall, who directed Big and The League of Their Own and Awakenings, this was seen as the major disappointment for her and pretty much everybody involved here. This has a great cast. You've got DeVito, as I mentioned, Gregory Hines, James Remare, Cliff Robertson, Ed Begley Jr., the recruits in here, Stacey Dash, Kadeem Hardison, Richard T. Jones, Mark Wahlberg's in here. It's just a really good cast overall, but it really is just Dead Poet Society meets Private Benjamin. It's basically the military equivalent of Dead Poet Society. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. And, you know, as much as Danny DeVito is trying his hardest here, he just can't save this movie, really. It's a movie that's just really not that intriguing whatsoever. And they actually had the balls to re-release this movie under a different title, an even more generic title, By the Book. They actually re-released this as By the Book, which came out, I believe, in September of that same year, in '94. And, yeah, guess what? Didn't fare any better. And, I mean, you put it on 17 theaters in the Seattle area, and you think that's going to really change everything around? Yeah, it really didn't. And, like I said, it's a shame because Danny DeVito can act his ass off whenever he stars in anything. Like, he can be really funny, but he can be a really good dramatic actor. But, even he couldn't save this movie. It's a shame, too, because of all the talent that's involved here, from Penny Marshall as the director to the cast that includes DeVito and all these great names. Just a major, major misfire on so many levels. The fact that they thought that they were going to compete with some of the big summer blockbusters that were coming out at the time. And short answer was they really didn't do it. So let's move on. Let's move on to a slightly better comedy. Woody Harrelson and Kiefer Sutherland starring in The Cowboy Way.
Here we go.
Pepper and Sonny have been wrangling
Well, Pepper sure can cowboy candy.
and locking horns since they were kids. Now, they're hitting the road to save a friend.
Show you how things work out, ain't it? One day, never been east of Tulsa. Next day, boom, I'm on my way to New York City. New York City. We ain't from around here. Really? People are so unfriendly here, it's like talking to a bunch of damn rocks.
And how would you gentlemen like those steaks prepared?
Well, just knock his horns off, whack his nasty old butt, and chunk him right down on the plate.
This city will kick your butt. We gotta find Teresa, remember? It's the only chance she's got.
Well, cowboy, I hope you got a plan.
You ready? Show me how to do that someday.
Hey! They stole our horses. Don't worry. They're good with horses.
From Universal Pictures and Imagine Entertainment.
Pepper, you listening to me?
Woody Harrelson,
This is the cowboy way. Time to make Big Chief happy chief.
You wicked old cheat.
and Kiefer Sutherland.
Maybe we ought to show them how old Pancho Villa used to make guys talk.
Oh, come on, man. What you doing?
I am embarrassed. Our friend here is not wearing any underpants.
The Cowboy Way.
Hey, how you doing? I'll check.
Once again, I say slightly better because, let's be honest, this is pretty much just like Renaissance Man, except this time around it's basically the Western equivalent of Crocodile Dundee. Let's take these two cowboys from New Mexico and put them into New York City and watch the comedy ensue. And, I mean, to the movie's credit, there are moments in here that are legitimately funny. Those moments you see in the trailer, like the joke about the cow about to eat the guy's you-know-what. At the end of that trailer, it's just like, yeah, that gets a little bit old pretty fast. But you know what? There are moments in here that are kind of funny. There are moments in here that do kind of work. Like I said, it's nothing really all that special, but considering what I just looked at with Renaissance Man, which was a blatant knockoff of Good Will Hunting, Dead Poet Society, and Private Benjamin, I mean, at least this movie gives you what you want to, gives it what you're promising, what they're promising, I should say. But, it's not really that great of a movie. I mean, like I said, it's pretty much just Crocodile Dundee meets the Wild West. And, I mean, some of the ideas do work. Some of the ideas are legitimately funny. But overall, it's a mostly forgettable movie. I saw it once. I thought, like, that wasn't too bad. I'm glad I saw it, but I never would want to watch it again. Toy boat. Like I said, I never would want to watch it again. But for the one time I saw it, I thought it was alright for what it was. But, yeah, like I said, it's nothing really all that memorable. I think it's a one-time watch. If you really go into it, knowing what you're going to get, you might get some enjoyment out of it, but it's not something you're ever going to want to pop in again anytime soon. Unless there's no other movies out there. That's a great criticism. Unless there's no other movies out there, see The Cowboy Way. But for what, like I said, if you want to see it and know what you're going in for, you might actually kind of enjoy it for what it is. But like I said, it's a one-time watch. So that's The Cowboy Way. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is The Endless Summer 2.
There's the search for the meaning of life. The search for big adventure. The search for the ultimate rush. For filmmaker Bruce Brown, the search ended 30 years ago when he found an endless summer. In 1966, a phenomenon began. Now, it's time for a new generation.
This is an easy flight. Let's go surfing.
If it's not dangerous,
Oh, God!
if it's not wild, if it's not intense, they're not interested. Introducing Robert Wingnut Weaver and Patrick O'Connell. They'll go anywhere and risk everything to hang on to summer any way they can. Bruce Brown's The Endless Summer 2. From Africa to Australia to Hawaii, Bruce Brown knows it's always summer somewhere.
So before we talk about this movie, I should honestly say that I'm actually kind of surprised that The Endless Summer has somewhat of a following that's so big that you kind of see it everywhere. If you go down, let me rephrase that. You go down to Ocean City and you see all the surf shops down there, you're surely going to find something related to The Endless Summer. I guess it's kind of a big thing. I guess it is kind of for surfers, it's kind of their Citizen Kane, which, again, I could kind of see why it is, but yeah, the last time I went down to Ocean City about a couple years ago, and I saw there was a whole bunch of different, like, Endless Summer stuff. There's shops down there based off of this movie. There's places where you can actually go there, and you'll see a bunch of merchandise there. So, I guess it does have somewhat of a following that still holds up all these years later. And, by the way, that trailer is pure 90s. Like, if you've ever been to the beach in the 1990s, or if you've ever seen a show like Baywatch in the 90s, that's exactly what that looks like, and the beaches look like in the 1990s. And, that's really all I got for you, because I've never seen these movies. I've had no real interest to see these movies, but, I just find it interesting that this series has had such a significant following that if you go down to places like Ocean City or some of these beach areas, you'll see these places based off of this movie. Even places named based off of this movie. And, yeah, I mean, if I was into surfing, I could definitely see the appeal of it, but it's just something that's never been truly in my interest to see it, so that's pretty much all I got for you. That's The Endless Summer 2. So let's move on to the next movie, a movie that I had never even heard of before I did this, but it's an animated film, and it's called The Princess and the Goblin.
The king's arrived! It's the king! It's the king! It's the king!
In a time long ago, in a place beyond your dreams,
Father!
lived the beloved daughter of a noble king. The sun beamed bright on this happy land until they discovered that something lurked down below.
Goblins? Everyone knows about the goblins and their pets.
We should take revenge!
They're evil. If they want something, nothing will stop them.
It'll take more than a few goblins to make me frightened.
Now, this brave and beautiful princess
You didn't tell me you were a princess.
You didn't ask.
has met a boy who knows the goblin's secrets.
There's one thing they can't stand. It's a song, see?
And together, they'll share a remarkable underworld adventure.
Get him!
Am I in trouble, Grandmother?
I fear you soon will be, my child.
Get back!
They'll battle a perfectly pompous prince.
I want to have them eating the dirt from under my fingernails!
His royally ridiculous mother.
Oh, what a malicious little majesty he is!
And their outrageous army of monstrous misfits.
Stamp on their feet! Stamp on their feet! That's the only place you can hurt them.
Father, we're in great danger.
Double the guard.
Those goblins aren't so bad if you know how to deal with them.
From the classic fairy tale that's delighted children for over 100 years,
We haven't finished with you yet!
it's The Princess and the Goblin. Coming soon to...
So yeah, this is an animated movie that's really all over the place in terms of its animation. Like, I really don't know what the hell they were trying to go for with the animation. I don't know if they were trying to do something that was... I don't know if they were trying to do something kind of like the Nutcracker Prince, which came out a few years prior, which had all these different weird animation styles to it that didn't connect at all. Because it definitely feels like that in this movie. And I've never even read the original story that this is based off of. Like I said, I never even heard of this movie until I did the research on it, so I can't really say if it's good or not. It certainly doesn't look that promising from that one trailer that I saw. I mean, just the animation styles alone, not blending together at all. It just gave me flashbacks to the Nutcracker Prince. and how that movie just really couldn't figure out what kind of an animation style it wanted to do, what kind of a story it wanted to tell. It feels like this is one of those type of movies. I think this was Hemdale, which also put out Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, and also Happily Ever After, I believe. And it was one of those movies where one of those studios that was trying to find their own Disney classic, and it honestly didn't work on any level, because I don't think any of these movies ever had lasting followings. I mean, Little Nemo maybe, but even that movie was not all that great. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you. I have never seen this movie, so I can't really comment on it. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe it actually is pretty good, or maybe it's not. So, that's The Princess and the Goblin. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is Fear of a Black Hat.
It's bumping. It's booyah. It's a year in the life of monster rappers and WH.
Without a hat, we was exposed. Without a hat, we was sunstroke. African son was pure and good. Never needed a hat, just roll.
It jumped from the hood and blasted straight to the top of the charts.
We are NWH.
Or niggas with hats.
You brothers are gonna be large. Now the most loved out crew in hip-hop history exposes it all.
Can't you guys just dance around like Hammer? Like Hammer?
Their hottest hits.
My peanuts?
Straight out of the butt.
Booty juice. They philosophy.
What is like society?
That's heavy. Their politics.
NWH, we're anti-violent.
Their competition.
We got ice train, iced coffee, ice water.
They roll up.
I got a lot of coffee and donuts in me, don't push me.
Their managers.
Somebody get killed!
So get off your booty.
Oh, yeah.
And step to this movie.
It's the death, chill, fresh thing to do.
Fear of a Black Hat.
Fear of a Black Hat, then subtitle, don't shoot till you see the whites.
Of their eyes?
Whose eyes?
A year in the life of NWA.
Fear of a Black Hat? Man, that's gonna be crazy large.
I see somebody saw CB4 and wanted to make their own satirical parody of hip-hop music. Actually, believe it or not, this is actually made before CB4 even came out. So this was way before that. It was about, I want to say about a couple of months before CB4 came out. So, I mean, I guess it makes more sense now. But yeah, it's hard not to look at this and see kind of the similarities to CB4 in this. This is basically trying to be a satirical hip gangster rap film, kind of like how This is Spinal Tap is satirizing 1980s heavy metal music. But I never even seen this movie before. Again, I hadn't even heard about it until I did the research on it. But knowing that this came out before CB4, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a lot better than CB4. And I like CB4, but this one, it looks like it is trying to be that equivalent to This is Spinal Tap. This is supposed to be that type of a movie for the 90s. And I mean, it doesn't look bad. It actually looks legitimately funny, and it's interesting to see some of these names in here, like Mark Christopher Lawrence. If you've never seen him before, if you've never heard of him before, you've definitely seen him before. He's been in stuff like Terminator 2, Judgment Day. You've seen him on Chuck all the time. He's been in various movies. He's a character actor. I've seen him a lot before, and you also have Cassie Lemons in here, who has become a prolific film director at the time. She was in stuff like, I believe she was in Candyman as Virginia Madsen's friend in that movie. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you. But, honestly, this movie doesn't look too bad. It actually looks legitimately good. Some of the reviews I've seen for it are pretty good, so maybe one day I'll definitely check it out. It's not something I'm going to rush out to see, but it definitely has my interest. So, that is Fear of a Black Hat. Let's move on to the last movie, and that is The Slingshot.
Susan Granger of the CRN Radio Network and American Movie Classic says, The Slingshot is the heartbreaking and exhilarating story of Roland, the son of a Russian Jew and a socialist revolutionary.
Yet another movie I've never seen, but it's got Stellan Skarsgård in it. I think this is one of his earlier films, and I thought at first this was a Merchant Ivory movie, because if you ever look at these Sony Picture Classics trailers from the early days of the studio, they kind of had, most of them were Merchant Ivory movies, and they usually had that same type of thing with the critical praise coming before you even knew anything about the movie. Basically, this is about a 12-year-old boy, born from a Russian Jewish mother, and a socialist father coming of age in 1920 Stockholm. Due to his family's background, he has to become an outcast to those around him, a constant target of bullying by his peers, often humiliated and physically punished by a sadistic schoolteacher in front of classmates. And in retaliation against his tormentors, he steals condoms from his mother's tobacco shop inventory and turns them into crude slingshot weapons, which sounds like a huge step in the... That's like one of those things where you expect to see Ron Burgundy coming on the screen and going, that escalated quickly, because that just sounds so weird. But he falls in love with a neighborhood girl, but as Roland attempts to toughen up and improve his troubled life, he also allies with the wrong group of friends and inadvertently makes him a juvenile offender. So it's a coming-of-age movie set in Sweden. That's pretty much really all I know about it, but that idea of taking these condoms and just making a slingshot weapon out of them is kind of hilarious, honestly. But this is supposed to be taken seriously. It's supposed to be it's a Swedish drama, but I don't know. I kind of want to see it just for that premise alone. Like, it sounds... I want to know how the escalation of that took place. Like, how did he figure out to make slingshots out of that particular thing? That's something I really want to know more about. So maybe one day I'll definitely check it out, but not right now, though. But I will say it is interesting to see just on that premise alone. So anyway, that is the slingshot.
Quiz. Airport. Gunman with one hostage. He's using her for cover. He's almost to a plane. You're 100 feet away.
What do you think? Shoot the hostage.
What?
Go for the good wound and you can't get to the plane with her. Clear shot.
You're deeply nuts, you know that?
All right, gentlemen, what we have here are 13 passengers in an express elevator. Bomb's already taken out cables. Bomber wants $3 million or he blows the emergency brakes.
Anything else that'll keep this elevator from falling?
Basement.
He can strike anywhere. At any time.
Will the mystery guest please sign in?
Why are they messing with me? Do they think I'm doing this for fun?
For LA cop Jack Traven.
Tell me again, Harry, why did I take this job?
Come on, 30 more years of this, you get a tiny pension and a cheap gold watch.
Cool.
The game began.
Very exciting, Jack. Some close calls, huh?
When someone put the city of Los Angeles to the ultimate test.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do? What do you do?
Now.
Are you insured? Yeah, why?
He's the only solution.
We just got a ransom demand from your terrorist. Says he's rigged the city bus. Where's Jack?
Where do you think?
Stay on or get off.
Get off.
This is much better.
Everybody hold on! You have a hair trigger aimed at your head. What do you do? What do you do?
Speed. Get ready for rush hour.
So Speed was sold basically kind of as Die Hard on a bus, which coincidentally enough, after this movie became such a big success, everyone was selling these action movies as Speed on a ... Speed on a cruise boat, which would be the sequel, but we will get to that one a little bit later on. But in terms of the original Speed, it's an action classic, man. It's a movie that I love to death. John DeBont directed this movie after many years as a cinematographer. This was his first movie he directed, and for a first film, he does a pretty damn good job. It's a really great film that really has a great story to tell, a great action story to tell. You got this bus that's been rigged by the terrorist Dennis Hopper in this, and if it falls, if the bomb's on the bus, and of course if it falls underneath 50 miles an hour, it blows up. And so the majority of the movie is trying to make sure that this bus keeps going and everybody's out of the bus and all that. And it's really tense. It's after all these years, you can still watch it and still get very tense. You still get those chills. Like, how are they going to get out of this? Even after you've seen this movie so many times. At least I know for a fact that after I've seen this movie so many times, I still get that feeling. And Keanu Reeves just makes it work, man. I think this was the first movie that everybody started to realize that, hey, Keanu Reeves isn't playing Bill in every single movie he's in. He's actually a pretty decent action star. I mean, before this he did Point Break, and then he was in Dracula, and then this was the movie that really changed it around for him. This is the movie that everyone saw him as kind of the next big action star. Dennis Hopper playing the bad guy is great as well. And it was also the film that kind of introduced Sandra Bullock to the world. This was the first movie that really grew her into superstardom, because the films that she would later get all these films that followed afterward. And, I mean, really, there's nothing more than I can say about Speed that hasn't been said already. It's a movie that every time I watch it, every time I see it, like I say, I still get those chills. I still get that tense action that the movie promises. It's a film that still holds up over numerous years. I mean, it's a movie that's held up very well over the test of time. And it's just so much fun to watch, man. It's a movie that I can go back to and watch over and over again. I can never get tired of it. Speed, need I say more? Fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But most of you probably have already seen it. But with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is the sequel, City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold.
Remember Mitch Robbins?
Hello?
It wasn't that long ago. He was feeling overwhelmed. He was dealing with life's ups and downs. And just when things couldn't get any worse, they got better. What a difference a year makes.
I'm so glad we moved out of the city. Morning.
Morning.
Work is good. I'm just not pushing time anymore. I mean, I'm the boss now, and I like it. Morning. Whew. You want to turn back? Oh, come on, let's go. Come on now. Come on, Norman, how are you going to get into a bathing suit? I mean, look at you. You weigh 800 pounds. And don't tell me thigh master. Norman, you are so out of shape. I mean, I'm 40 and you're 1. Look at you. You're like this big tub of veal or something. Hey, stay in your lane. I mean, if you're going to come over, use your signal.
City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold.
Why'd you bump me for, Norman? I'm the guy who saved your life. I mean, if it wasn't for me, you'd be 100 wallets. These gals today.
Yeah, once you get the director of Leonard Part 6 to direct your movie, that's not a good sign going forward. And, I mean, if you can't even get Bruno Kirby to come back from the first movie, I mean, they get Billy Crystal, they get Daniel Stern back, they can't get Bruno Kirby to come back, but they get John Lovitz in here. Yeah, needless to say, this is not a very good movie. This is one of those typical comedy sequels that's trying to recapture the magic of the first movie, but it basically just rehashes the same plot of the first movie, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way they do this. Like, they bring Jack Palance back in here to play a different character because, I mean, his character gets killed off in this movie, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense whatsoever. I mean, the only reason they brought him back in here as a different character is because, hey, Jack Palance won an Academy Award for City Slickers back in 1991, so he's, of course, one of the biggest stars of the movie. We gotta bring him back. I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And he's playing the identical twin brother, which is kind of a lame attempt to kind of bring him back in there. Like I said, the movie tries way too hard to recapture the magic of the first movie, and that is usually a lot of the problems with these comedy sequels, is that they don't really have an intention of expanding a story or continuing a story from the previous film. They just want to rehash the same thing as the first movie and sucker people into going to see it again. And usually that's why most of these comedy sequels only make half back of what the original film made. And that's pretty much what happens here. I mean, the movie wasn't a big hit. It made decent money, but it only made half of what the first movie made. Sometimes you get a good comedy sequel every once in a while, but this is the prime example of a sequel that's just doing the same thing over and over again, and just be glad it wasn't a big success, because I'm pretty sure they would have made this into a trilogy, much like the Hangover movies, and it would have been the same thing all over again, but they didn't, thankfully, and this movie kind of explains why. It's not a very good movie. It's basically a retread of the first movie. Characters are dumbed down, the comedy isn't as funny, it's just made because the first movie was such a big success, and that's pretty much all you can say about this movie. Just watch the first City Slickers, and you'll be good. It's easily the best of the two films, and again, I don't think I need to say more about this one. City Slickers 2, it's not a very good movie. It's not a very good sequel, so... let's move on to the last movie, which is, I guess, a better sequel. I don't know if you want to consider it a sequel, but it's the second film in Krzysztof Kieślowski's Three Colors trilogy, and that is White.
Répétez. Que je mangeasse.
Que je mangeasse.
Que tu mangeasses.
Que tu mangeasses.
Qu'il mangeât. Que nous mangeassions. Que vous mangeassiez. Qu'il mangeasse.
So White is basically about equality. You've got this film depicting a shy man who, after being left by his wife, the wife being played by Julie Delpy, who you would know later on from the Before trilogy, his wife leaves him in humiliating circumstances in Paris. He loses his money, his residence, his friends, and he's become a beggar in Paris, and he begins his effort to restore equality through his life through revenge. And there's a good way to interpret this movie. I think Roger Ebert said it best, that this was kind of an anti-comedy, and stuff like Blue was kind of an anti-tragedy, and then Red later on down the road would become an anti-romance film. And it's an interesting way to look at these movies. I think all three of these movies do a very good job of creating something unique and different while feeling also kind of connected at the same time. I really like what they did with the first movie, Blue, and I really like what they do here. It's very different from the previous film, but it feels like it has an identity of its own that can make it stand out more than the previous film. And it's a really good movie. It's a really good film from a really good trilogy of films. I don't know if I can add any more to it. I mean, honestly, these movies are really entertaining and in their own very unique way, and they can be seen as various different things. And again, they can connect to what the original concept of all three of these films are supposed to be very well. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you on that one. So that's Three Colors, White.
Wolf bit me. I don't think so, Will. You weren't there, Will.
Not all who are bitten change. There must be something wild within.
You've been sleeping all day. How do you feel?
It is Mexican Independence Day.
Never thought I'd meet a good man who looked at me the way you do.
You don't know I'm a good man. You crazy? No. Just marking my territory. We got 5 new murders. What is there about a full moon?
Mayor, you seem pretty helpless now.
Power without guilt. Love without doubt. It feels good to be wolf.
Don't look so scared.
Believe it or not, there was a time in the 90s when Sony kind of made their own... Remember how Universal was going to make this dark universe where they were going to have all these different reboots of different horror movie icons, and that never happened because The Mummy quickly came and went and died a slow, painful death? Well, Sony kind of had their own thing going back then. I mean, we looked at Bram Stoker's Dracula from Francis Ford Coppola, which was a good movie. And then later on this year, we'll have Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I don't know. I guess you could kind of consider Mary Riley kind of that movie too, because it's supposed to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then even at the end of the decade, or not even at the end of the decade, the start of the decade of the 2000s, you had Hollow Man, which is basically the Invisible Man, and here you have Wolf, which is essentially the Wolf Man, and it's a very interesting take on the werewolf type of story. Like, it's not trying to be another American Werewolf in London. It's trying to be something more modernized, more slower paced, and overall, it's a pretty good movie. I will say that there are things about it that I think stick out more, that go against the film overall. One of the things I think the movie kind of fails to do is something kind of like how The Fly worked. Like how in The Fly, Jeff Goldblum turns into this creature, and slowly but surely, it just slowly turns him into this disgusting creature. And I think they were trying to do the same thing here with Nicholson and Pfeiffer, trying to make them like Goldberg and Gina Davis in that movie, but I don't know. I thought The Fly did it a whole lot better, but I mean, you go to this movie mostly to see Jack Nicholson do Jack Nicholson, and Jack Nicholson is doing what Jack Nicholson does, and he becomes a werewolf. And I think the chemistry between him and Michelle Pfeiffer works okay. I don't think it's overall great in here, but I do gotta applaud the movie for trying to create this new modernized take of the Wolfman and what it would be like with this sort of realistic dialogue that they have working here. It's got a great cast overall besides Nicholson and Pfeiffer. You got James Spader, Kate Nelligan, Richard Jenkins, Christopher Plummer's in here, David Hyde Pierce. Who else is in here? You got David Schwimmer in a cameo. Allison Janney is also in here as well. There's just enough. There's just enough there that I think it really does become a very solid film. Not a great film overall, but it's very stylized. It does get the creep factor in there. It's very tense as well, and it's an overall enjoyable movie. I think it could have been a whole lot better for what it was, but I mean, when this movie came out, it did legitimately scare me. But then again, I was only about 5-6 years old at the time, so that wouldn't be too surprising. I never saw the movie as a little kid, but I used to see the trailers for this all the time, and I saw the videotape for this when we went to the video store, not Blockbuster, because we really didn't get Blockbuster around my neck of the woods until about the 2000s, and that was kind of at the end of the road for them, unfortunately. But we did have stuff like Far More and Giant Eagle, and the Giant Eagle that I work at had Eagle Video, which is like a video rental place, and I definitely remember seeing this cover and this poster there, and yeah, the movie overall legitimately did deliver what it promises. It's a very tense, very terrifying film. Not a perfect film overall, but more than good enough to recommend it. If you want to see a different, modernized, stylized version of the Wolfman that hasn't been done before, this definitely works out very well. And considering some of the stuff we've gotten since then, like American Werewolf in Paris, which is a terrible sequel to an American Werewolf in London, we'll get to that in '97, and then the Wolfman, the Benicio del Toro one in 2010. This one kind of is the best of the bunch, honestly. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you. Wolf, fantastic film. Definitely check it out. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is Macaulay Culkin and Ted Danson in Getting Even with Dad.
This afternoon, 2 armed guards were robbed of $1.5 million in rare coins.
Ray Gleason just committed the perfect crime, but it took just one small thing.
Hi, Dad.
To screw it all up. Dad? A visit from his son. Because after a lifetime of being ignored,
I'm stuck with him. He's just a kid. There's no way he's gonna find anything out here.
Timmy isn't getting mad.
They're gone.
Excuse me, guys.
He's getting even.
I think we better talk.
Giants game, the aquarium, the museum. What? You want to go to these places?
And I want you to take me. I want you to pretend you like having me around for the week. If you do a real good job, Dad, I'll tell you where the coins are.
I can't believe this. We're being blackmailed by an 11-year-old kid. So the coins, Tim. Where are the coins?
Wouldn't you like to know?
What you want?
It's a week they'll never forget.
You guys better get your sleep.
I'm looking for the coins.
Got another big day tomorrow.
A week his partners may live to regret.
Carl! Carl! Carl!
And and a case one lady cop
I think that the boy knows where the coins are. Got a boyfriend.
may not be able to resist.
You're supposed to tail the suspect, not date him.
For all the birthdays I missed, Tim.
MGM Pictures presents the story of a dad who's about to discover don't do the crime.
You guys look a little stressed. You're not wussing out, are you?
What, you kidding? We could go all day.
If you can't do the time. Macaulay Culkin,
This one of yours? Ooh la la.
Ted Danson,
I'll race you to the corner. But no, wait. Okay, go.
getting even with Dad.
I guess your family was dysfunctional too. That's what we are. You and me, we're dysfunctional.
You've been watching way too much Oprah.
So on paper, this doesn't seem like a really bad idea. I mean, it's Macaulay Culkin playing this kid, Ted Danson playing this father who's actually a criminal, and the kid has not been getting the attention from Dad, so he basically steals the stuff that he stole to try to get him to connect with him more. And really, you don't think that's going to be a bad idea, but as far as the movie itself goes, it really doesn't work at all, and it's not really the fault of Danson and Culkin. They're trying their best here, but the script overall, I think, is trying way too hard to be another Home Alone type of film. I mean, you even see in the trailer that he's got traps in there similar to Home Alone. It's just like, you don't have to put this in every single movie, guys. I mean, let us see what Macaulay Culkin can do as an actor, and I don't think Macaulay Culkin has been a bad actor. These movies that he made after Home Alone have not been very good, but it's not because of him. I think he's just picking whatever scripts he's been given, and I think I think this was one of those rare movies that actually came out outside of the holidays, because if you look at that stretch between 1990 and 1994, Macaulay Culkin had been in a lot of movies that came out during the holidays. There were movies that were kind of big, movies that people would come back to every holiday is during the holiday season, and they stuck this out in the summertime to see how good his range can be outside of his box office range can be, and the end result was it wasn't all that interesting and not that very good. And I don't know if Culkin himself picked the script, or maybe it was his parents, because I know he had his parents were kind of in the way, and actually I'm reading right here, his father was actually demanding his son. He was actually kind of pushing his son to be in these situations. Like, his character in this movie was supposed to have a short haircut, kind of like what he did in Home Alone, I think. And he let his hair grow out at the time, and his dad actually demanded his son be allowed to keep the haircut that he had, pointing out that his character was a working class boy and not a clean-cut prep school one. And so he got to keep his long hair in this. And, I mean, it doesn't really seem like it's that bad of a movie from the trailer, but it's just kind of a boring movie, honestly. I mean, Danson and Culkin are trying their best to really hold this together, but just those moments when it's trying to be way too much like another Home Alone type of film, and it is very formulaic. You can kind of predict what's going to happen at the end of it. They're going to have a breakup at the end of it after they're getting along, and then they're going to have to connect again in the third act. That type of thing, and it's just kind of like, it's just not an enjoyable movie. It's a movie that was largely forgettable, and it was quickly thrashed by critics. I think it got 3% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, I mean, I've seen some bad movies that are much worse than this, but I'm not going to say it's a great movie by any means either. It's a movie that's just not a very enjoyable film. It's a very lackluster film, despite the efforts of both Culkin and Danson. I think they're trying their best to save this, and it's just not enough to save it. I think the better movies from Culkin come out later on in the holiday season, and coincidentally, it was the last two movies he made at the peak of his star power with Home Alone. So we'll definitely get to those ones later on, and like I said, they're much better movies than this one is. So that's Getting Even with Dad. Now let's get to the last movie of the weekend, and it's the limited release of a movie that not only would become one of the biggest hits of the year, one of the biggest animated films of all time, one of the great Disney classics of all time. It opened in limited release this weekend, only in a couple of theaters, before it eventually went wide the following week. I'm, of course, talking about Disney's epic animated classic, Kimba the White Lion.
connected in the great circle of life. Walt Disney Pictures presents its all-new 30-second, full-length animated motion picture, The Lion King. He was born to rule.
This'll all be mine?
Everything the light touches. But a shadow lies over the kingdom.
I will be king. Run away and never return.
If you ever come back, we'll kill you!
Hey, kid, what's in you?
I don't want to talk about it.
He looks blue. I'd say brownish gold. No. I mean, he's depressed. Anything we can do?
Not unless you can change the past.
He grew up hoping to leave his old life behind.
I know who you are. You're Mufasa's boy.
You're the king.
King? Have you got your lions crossed? You know my father? Correction. I know your father. He died a long time ago. Nope. Wrong again. He's alive. And I show him to you. Father?
You are my son, and the one true king.
You see, he lives in you.
You must take your place in the circle of life. It's a legendary tale filled with excitement, plus dozens of wonderful new characters.
Why do I always have to save you?
And featuring original music and songs by Grammy winner Elton John and Academy Award winner Tim Rice. This summer, Walt Disney Pictures presents an entertainment event you'll never forget.
Or The Lion King. You knew I had to make that show because, if you don't know, everybody thinks The Lion King was a ripoff of Kimba the White Lion, the anime, and I think they actually went to court on that, and I think Disney actually won that. I could be wrong on that, but that's the reason why I did the bit at the beginning about Kimba the White Lion. But anyway, yes, The Lion King did come out in limited release on this particular weekend in 1994. It only opened in a couple of theaters in California and New York, and I don't think anybody really knew how big of a hit this movie was going to be. This was going to be a hit on the level of something like Jurassic Park the year before, which was this huge monster hit that everybody thought was going to be a hit, but I don't think anybody really expected it to be as big of a hit it was. I think it was the highest tested movie Disney ever had up to that point, which is amazing to think about. There was just so much hype after what Disney had done before. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, these Oscar-winning movies, these classic films. And everybody thought that this was going to be that next big thing. It's interesting, one of my favorite stories from Waking Sleeping Beauty, which is a fantastic documentary. I think I've talked about it before on this particular show, but if you haven't seen that movie, definitely check it out. One of the great bits that I always remember about that was when Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was at Disney at the time, actually, he had just left Disney at the time, and he was in the middle of the production of this movie. He thought that Pocahontas was going to be the next big hit. It was going to be the next West Side Story. And then with The Lion King, he kept saying that it was going to be an experiment. He didn't think anybody was going to go see it. And that just shows you how much Jeffrey Katzenberg, as great of a genius as he could be, he really had no idea what he was thinking about. I mean, if you want to hear about some of the crazy things that he said, look at the stuff that he said about Roku TV, about the Roku TV shows that they were doing most recently around COVID. Okay, it wasn't even Roku TV; it was actually Quibi. I mean, how could you forget Quibi? I mean, well, actually, to be fair, most of those shows that were on Quibi actually moved over to Roku TV, where they've had better success than what they had on Quibi. Quibi didn't work because it was basically most of the content they had on Quibi was basically the parody. If you've ever seen the parody shows on 30 Rock, it was basically those, except these were meant to be taken seriously. Like, every once in a while, you'd get one show that's actually kind of like, this isn't that bad, like Reno 911, of course. And then you had the Die Hard series with John Travolta and Kevin Hart. But everything else about that show, that streaming service was just so bad. It died a quick death after the pandemic peaked. And it basically showed you how much Jeffrey Katzenberg really had no idea what he was doing and some of the crazy things he said about it. I can't go into it right now. I've spent way too much time on it talking about it, but yeah. So bottom line, Jeffrey Katzenberg thought this was a crazy idea that wasn't going to go anywhere, and lo and behold, Lion King is still a classic to this day, and Pocahontas wasn't a bad film, but it wasn't even a big bomb, but it certainly doesn't have the lasting legacy that The Lion King does, and yeah, The Lion King still holds up very well for the most part. Now, granted, it does have its flaws. I think there are parts of it that do rip off Bambi, and there are things about it that are they're not bad things, but they're mostly nitpicks. They're mostly things that I think when most people talk about the original Lion King and how great of a movie it is, they completely forget about those type of things. They forget about those type of things that really feel like what do I want to say here? They feel like The Lion King is so sacred. Like, it's like, if you say anything bad about this movie, it's like you're saying something bad about Jesus. Like, that's the type of thing that happens whenever you talk sort of negatively about this movie. And I say sort of negatively because there are flaws to the movie. I don't think it holds up as well as some of the other Disney films that came out in between Oliver and Company and this, but it does hold up very well for the most part. I mean, the animation is still spectacular. Some of the best animation Disney had done up to this point. The final climactic scene is so well done. The acting is very well done. I honestly think this is one of Matthew Broderick's best performances, honestly. This, Ferris Bueller, War Games, the characters are memorable too, Timon and Pumbaa especially. The songs are memorable. Like, you could still listen to these songs anytime and you'll never forget the lyrics to them. And like I said, the biggest flaws of the movie, I think, come in the story department. There's stuff that's ripped right out of Bambi. There's stuff that's redone to make it look like the original. And you can tell which scenes they're ripping off. There are other things as well. Like, there's a good lesson in there that Rafiki tells the adult Simba. But then, in the final battle, it becomes moot because essentially he's been lied to this whole time. And so he really doesn't really learn anything afterwards. I mean, it's a weird thing. Like, it's weird to really delve into the flaws of the film, because there are flaws in here, and I think a lot of people overlook those flaws when they're talking about this movie, because The Lion King really does stand the test of time. It's a movie that does hold up well to this day. I don't think it's as good as some of the other Disney movies that were coming out at this peak time, like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. I think those movies are held up to a much higher standard, but in the end, it does hold up well. Over time, it has held up very well. When it was re-released in IMAX 3D, I went to go see it several times on a big screen because I wanted to see that feeling for the first time. And if it ever goes back on the big screen again, I definitely go check it out again. It's a movie that really has held up the test of time for the most part. It has flaws to it, but it's still a very good movie. It's still a very well-made film. It's one of Disney's biggest classics for a reason, and you can see why it was such a big hit at the time, because it was just a culmination of everything that made Disney what it was back then, working so well at that point that everybody just kept coming back to it and coming back to it. And it was one of the biggest hits of the summer, one of the biggest hits of the year. And it's a movie that has still held the test of time on various formats. Like, there was a time period between, I think, 2016 and 2019 that you couldn't go to Freeform or ABC Family or whatever it was called back then and not see a weekend where The Lion King was not playing on TV. It was playing on TV, I think, a record about almost 50 to 100 times in between 2016 and 2019 when the live-action remake came out. I remember this because every weekend I would keep seeing The Lion King on there, and it's just like, I can't argue with them putting it on there because it's one of their most beloved movies, and for good reason. So, I've spent way too long talking about this movie, but, really, what more do I need to say about it? The Lion King, it's a classic film. It's a great movie, one of Disney's classics. It's The Lion King, man. Lion King.
I gotta tell you something, Wyatt. I told your brothers when they went off to fight, and I suppose the time's come for you. You know I'm a man that believes in the law. After your family, it's about the only thing you got to believe in. But there are plenty of men who don't care about the law. Men who will take part in all kinds of viciousness. Don't care who gets hurt. When you find yourself in a fight with such viciousness, hit first if you can. And when you do hit, get to kill. The closer you keep your family, the better. Nothing counts so much as blood. The rest are just strangers.
So it is kind of hard to talk about this movie without, of course, talking about Tombstone, which came out 6 months prior to this. And Tombstone was a much better movie. Tombstone was a much more very stylized, visually pleasing, overall decently told story. This movie had good intentions to it. I mean, Kevin Costner's name is on it. And at this point, he had done a couple of really good movies that really cemented his status, like Dances with Wolves and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and also JFK and The Bodyguard. This was his first major stumble as a filmmaker. This is a movie that, of course, he's the centerpiece of it. He was the producer on it, directed by Lawrence Kasdan. We talked about Lawrence Kasdan's work in the past. Grand Canyon was a great film we talked about. We talked about I Love You to Death, The Accidental Tourist. Made some great movies like that. But I mean, when you compare this to Tombstone, Tombstone was just a much better movie. I think Tombstone did a better job of telling that story about Wyatt Earp a whole lot better than the movie about Wyatt Earp itself. I think the big problem isn't Kevin Costner. He is trying his best with this. It's just that it's just bloated with so much stuff. This has a huge cast to this that just feels rather unnecessary. You've got Dennis Quaid, you've got Gene Hackman, you've got Jim Caviezel, Jeff Fahey, Mark Harmon, Michael Madsen, Catherine O'Hara, Bill Pullman, Isabella Rossellini, Tom Sizemore, Jo Beth Williams, Mare Winningham, Adam Baldwin, Annabeth Gish, Betty Buckley. Just some notable names in here that just feel kind of forced into it. And coincidentally, it's interesting how Costner was actually involved in the original production of Tombstone, but he left that film to focus on this film. And I think it was also meant to be a 6-hour miniseries at one point until they cut it down when Kevin Costner joined the cast and they decided to make it into a film, it's interesting to think about that because I think that's what happened with Gettysburg, which came out the year prior. I think Gettysburg was originally intended to be a miniseries, and then Ted Turner decided to put it in theaters. And again, Gettysburg is a far superior movie. This just feels like they put way too much into this. Like the movie just doesn't feel like it's trying to tell a good story. It just feels like it's way too long. It's not a very good script. I mean, the production is clearly there. I think it's a movie that I think benefits more from the style over the substance. And despite Kevin Costner trying his best with this, it just feels very lackluster compared to what I saw with Tombstone, which Tombstone was a much better film. I mean, there's really nothing else more you can say about it. Tombstone was a much better film. This just feels like they're putting way too much effort into this that's not really all that there. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, Tombstone I think is the much better film. Wyatt Earp just feels like they overbloated it with so much stuff, more stuff that felt unnecessary, stuff that didn't feel like it needed to be there, and it just didn't work. It was a movie that had a lot of ambition to it probably, but Tombstone did it a whole lot better. Also, opening it in the summertime, usually you don't put this type of a movie in the summertime. Like, if you're expecting this to be your big Oscar contender, you put that out in the fall, maybe you put it out in early August, but not in the middle of summertime when you've got all these big blockbusters out there. I mean, probably Warner Brothers knew that this was bad, and they just said, you know what, stick it in the summertime. We'll just, if it hit, we'll go with it. If it bombs, we'll just say that, we'll just try to cover our asses. And that's pretty much what they tried to do here, and it didn't work. So that's Wyatt Earp, and let's go to the other movie that we have here, a movie I never even heard of, the documentary Freedom on My Mind.
You don't dream things that you can't imagine. I dreamed about just growing up and being married and having a white house with a white fence and staying in it and cooking, and I'm sure that came from my Dick and Jane reader. In high school, I decided I really wanted to be a secretary because I'd seen one someplace, maybe in a magazine, and they wore church clothes every day, and they didn't have to chop cotton, or they didn't have to pick cotton, they didn't have to be in the hot sun. They sat in a nice office, and I saw pictures of them talking on telephones. And I thought that was an excellent job to have. It would be an excellent way to spend your life if you didn't have the White House and the picket fence and all of that stuff.
And I worked for white folks every day. We'd leave school, come home, change clothes, go to the white folks' place. So we'd be around their kids, we'd get to fighting with them, get in arguments about civil rights, get in arguments about black and white issues, and we'd fight. I mean, we'd literally bloody up fight.
So this documentary basically chronicles the Mississippi voter registration movement of 1961 to 1964, which was characterized by violence against the people involved, including multiple instances of murder. We're talking about civil rights in the 60s in Mississippi, and that's really all I know about it because I've never seen this movie, and I hardly ever heard about it until I actually did the research on this. And I mean, it is about what you expect from a documentary of this type. It's not. I mean, it definitely could be something that could be interesting, but I just don't have the interest to see it right now. And I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it's just not something that's on my radar. I mean, it could be decent. It could actually be pretty good. I've heard some pretty good things about it from the research I did. So that's pretty much all I got for you. Maybe it is pretty good, but that's the other movie that came out this weekend of noteworthiness. Freedom on My Mind.